Hello and welcome to a Wondercare podcast with me, Sheena Mitchell, pharmacist and mum of 3. This week, I'm going to be giving you lots of advice on travelling with young kids. I'm going to be joined by my brother who has 4 children of his own and he is also a community pharmacist. So hopefully we'll make your summer travelling plans a little bit easier this year with lots of tips and advice. Hello, Niall.
Hi. Hi.
You can drink your tea.
It's coffee. I do need it to talk to you.
Okay, fair enough. Was the last episode that hard on you?
A lot more conversation than I'm normally used to doing.
Well, you're here to entertain me now for the summer anyway. We'll see how you get on after that. You're on a trial period of no payment.
Oh,
and
I'm on probation.
There's no payment in the future, so, we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of prospects.
Yes. Yeah. I like it.
So today we are talking about some of the difficulties and best tips and advice for travelling with young children. So you have 4 boys and I have 2 girls and a boy. I have travelled with all ages of kids, and I think that's really important to say. Your expectations of what a family holiday is change dramatically after you have kids. Like, we've been lucky, ours are relatively good travellers and they all like the sun, although 2 of them are very fair, so there's a lot of sun cream, but that's grand. Bit of a pain, bit of hard work. But a family holiday with kids is always going to involve you having to sit beside the pool or be in the pool with them.
It's an active holiday. But anywhere around pool, you're going to have to be on your toes anyway with the water. And
so I reached out to the Wondercare followers on Instagram at WondercareIRL, and I asked if anyone had some good advice for travelling with babies or young kids. So the first one that I want to highlight was from Catherine, and this is genius. And I think I had heard whispers that you could do this, but I didn't know it was actually a thing. So if you're flying with Aer Lingus, you can actually drop and check in your suitcases the night before.
ooh.
Now that's handy if you're living in Dublin or near the airport. Yeah. So then Maria, and I want to give a big shout out for Maria because she's given me so many tips, and I'm going to run through the highlights here because they're amazing and we can discuss them as we go along. But she says, book good flight times. I agree with that. And sometimes it's hard.
100%. That's why I'm going for Knock this time around, is because the red-eye flights from Dublin.
Yeah. But I find sometimes, obviously, you're paying a lot more. And when you're paying for 5 tickets, it could be like €150 a ticket difference to fly. Now,
yeah. But as in, I will always say for flight times, and then when you go to book it, it's hard to hit that button.
It is. Another suggestion of Maria's is, so in terms of where you're booking, book somewhere with an indoor pool for babies. I'm a bit of an outdoor fanatic. I do obviously keep my children in the shade and use like brollies and, whatever. And UV suits. Big fan of a UV suit. Just
100%. Yeah, and hats. And with the long necks.
The long neck.
Ideal. Love them.
Yeah,
Great tip there.
Also, a travel buggy that fits in the overhead. And she's saying because they got caught out waiting for 2 hours before the buggy came off when they landed. Like, that's a nightmare.
That is a nightmare. Now, I know some of them will take the buggies off directly at the plane. Like, because you go onto the plane and like you give it to them and you get off, you come down the stairs and it's there.
Yeah, there's a pile.
Or otherwise they go through into the hold. So I don't know, is that an airline or a location or a...
And I remember we had to buy, when the kids were younger, we had to buy side by side little double buggy that was smaller than the one that we use for, say, comfort, like trips around the zoo
stroller,
whatever at home. Yeah, stroller, that's the word I'm looking for. But something like that, and picking them up second hand is the only way to go, or borrowing, and also just make sure that it's easily collapsible and all that, and that it'll survive the being chucked on and off the plane. A snooze shade for the buggy is obviously a good one. But
that's the big black sunshades. Love them.
Yeah, and you have to be careful. Love them.
Love them. They're great.
One thing I'd say about that, just make sure there's a lot of air circulating. The other thing is rent baby toddler equipment over there. And that's so true.
Yeah, and then some of the car seats you get are a bit... Meh.
Oh, like they don't do high back boosters. What's with that?
Yeah, that is just an Irish thing, I think. And then you only get these small little things and you're kind of going...
Not that happy.
Now, all the kids love them.
This is a really important one. Time for the airport. You need time for every possible nappy change and every bad feed, and every time just everything is so stressful if you're in a rush with a baby. It just doesn't work.
If you give yourself time, you're laughing. Because you can deal with anything then.
You can enjoy it a bit more as well. Then if you're bringing formula, Maria said that, she brought over 10 bottles of Aptamil in the baby bag and some Ella's Kitchen stuff through security, all tested in a machine. But I think the whole point about that is even if you're bringing formula, it's no harm to have some in your hand luggage, because when you get there, if your luggage is lost and say
100%.
And if you're on specialised formula, particularly for those who have cow's milk protein intolerance or whatever and might be on something like Aptamil Pepti, you mightn't be able to get that straight away over there.
Or an equivalent, that it might just have a different taste of the same thing and the child mightn't take to it straight away.
Yeah, so it's definitely good, especially in the suitcase. I used to always bring my tins formula that I needed. So, yeah.
And realistically, I know we stressed a lot about getting milk through at the airports and stuff, but it's not the airport's first time to see a baby coming through. It might be your first time going through it, but generally the security, they've been there before. They don't really want to be standing there with babies looking at them crying. They're going to do their utmost to get you through.
I just want to interrupt this episode for one little second. Okay, more than one little second, but not a lot of seconds. Summer is here, and it's definitely my favourite season. The only downside is all of the circulating dust, spores and pollen that can make life miserable by affecting your sleep and respiratory health. That's why I'm so delighted that Salin Plus are supporting this season of Wondercare podcast, as the Salin Plus device filters these dust and pollen particles out of the air when used every night in your bedroom and circulates fresh, clean air for improved sleep and comfortable airways. I cannot believe we're on season 5. Where is the time going? Anyway, back to the pod. Pay ahead to have your seats together.
100%. I'm going to put my hand up here and say I have paid for Fast Track, just because less time in a queue with children pulling at you, and the less time that they have to make a scene in front of other people, basically. I will pay for that
100%
extra stone that I won't have to lose in sweat.
Yeah, no, I do that too. Now, one thing I'm going to add here is, especially for when you're with a young baby, so in my backpack or whatever I was bringing on the plane, I would always have 2 Ziploc bags that had a spare vest and sleep suit in it. And I always had 2 spare, and always in their own plastic bag, so that if there was any sort of incident of the punami type puking incidents, I would put the dirty clothes into the Ziploc bag so that it was sealed and safe.
So if a bottle leaked, it's all protected, that if you need it. So if you had just one bottle leak, that all the clothes aren't wet.
And you just need to have them on you. There's just no way about it, because obviously once it's down in the hold, you're done. Then Maria is also saying knowing which bag allowance is assigned to each boarding pass. I think because you could say have a 20 kg bag and a 10 kg bag, but you need to make sure that say Sheena's is the 20 kg.
Sheena's good. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
So that can slow you down. And also obviously having lots of comfortable clothing. And then not to forget snuggly teddies on the plane, or a soother for when you're taking off, if your child uses a soother. For any breastfeeding mums out there, breastfeeding is amazing at basically neutralizing that pressure in the eardrums, because the motion it does is kind of like yawning. So if you've got a child who isn't obviously breastfeeding, if you can keep yawning around them, it'll help your ears in pressure zones, but also if the yawns can be contagious because of empathy, so it can encourage them to yawn. This is making me want to yawn now, but anyway. And having enough soothers so they don't go missing. Now, what about the child who's at that crawly stage and they just want to crawl up the plane or under the seats in front of them?
Oh, I let them. Complete disown them. Somebody else's issue. No, you go with them, or you stand behind them and you make sure, first off, the Dodie's gone onto a string so that it's not dragging along the ground. But I am probably the parent that other people hate, and I will let the child go up them. I'll obviously not disturbing anyone, but I'll walk behind them, and then if there is an issue, I'll pick the child up and stand aside or move them out of the way.
It's hard though, because you can't stop them. And
no, you can't. And then it's either that or have a happy child crawl up alongside you, or have a cranky child 2 rows behind you
screaming,
shouting. It's the lesser of 2 evils.
And if you can try and time naps for when you're on the plane.
I always get a great clip on the plane.
I'm sure you do. But does your missus? Yeah. So, yeah, if you have a young baby, they're fairly adaptable, and sometimes it can actually be hard to keep them awake for half an hour, but it's worth it if you can. Or, have them in a carrier so that they can kind of fall asleep, and then you can kind of settle them into your knee with the baby seatbelt around it. Blackout blinds. Now, these are something that I've brought in Ireland, but I have never brought on a plane because of luggage.
For on the plane or for
on
holidays?
Yeah, for on holidays.
On holidays, it makes a great idea. Yeah, but then you don't know what windows you're going to. So you have to get the size. Like, I presume she's talking about the hang-up ones.
Do you know what those Grow blackout blinds, and they are
Yeah.
very good. That Grow company do them, and I
They
have
do.
them for down in Castlerea actually, because Mum's curtains aren't blackout. However, one year we were going away, and I can't remember. We must have been flying to Scotland, and I did bring them on the plane, but we ordered online basically blackout paper blinds. So you just draped them on, or you could like stick them on somehow around the window, but we actually just hung them through the rail, and they were paper, so they were disposable and recyclable afterwards, and you
very
didn't have
good.
to carry them home.
Did they work?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
And if you've no blackout blinds, a towel will do the same job. Do you know?
Yeah.
But my God, are they important? Cot sheets. Yeah, I've had to pack cot sheets before because sometimes.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ones abroad are you mightn't get the same quality of material, or there could be that plasticky type of material that, like I would say, bring your own. Equally, the child going back down onto something that they know they're going to go to sleep easier.
Yeah. Milton tablets for sterilising. Excellent.
Yep.
Absolutely like them because they take so little room and you don't need to be bringing your giant sterilising machine. And often if you have a microwave steriliser, you don't have a microwave. So just in a lot of cases. Okay, I'm looking through here. Insect repellent, obviously just ask in your local pharmacy, or we have some online on wondercare.ie. Niall, I'm sure you've got a great selection down in Castlerea. What's
We
hitting
do,
up?
and we have them on promotion at the minute. DEET, I'm a big fan of DEET.
Yes.
There are some more natural ones which are suitable for younger children.
Yeah. So just make sure to check that the age group that you're using it for is right. There's also some really good little bracelets that you can put on your kids. They're infused with citronella, which help to prevent bites. I remember one year walking around in Portugal with them, and sure, they had one on each ankle and one on each wrist. We looked like they were let out on day release or something from prison because they were just...
They are very handy though.
They loved them, and they did work. And in terms of medicines, now obviously you're also a pharmacist, so I like for the older kids Calpol melts and Nurofen chewables purely because they're not liquids and they're easy to pack.
My children are hypochondriacs, so we'll line up when a syringe comes out with Calpol.
Like little birds. Another thing actually in terms of antihistamines for any kind of skin rashes or bites or anything like that, we were just using cetirizine liquid, either Zyrtec or Antihist. And then I realised that a whole Claritin tablet can be given to a child over the age of 6.
Yes, or you have half an antihist is over the age of 6 as well, but it's still half an antihist twice a day.
Yes, whereas you can take Claritin once daily. And my kids are grand with swallowing tablets, thankfully. But if your kids aren't, a bit of fruit pot or yogurt can be helpful in that situation. So you have 4 children, so I'm sure you recommend these a lot. Op-site post-op dressings. Anytime there is a cut knee in our house, or a cut elbow, or cut anything, because they're so handy, because instead of bringing plasters that are flimsy and fall off and don't last, or maybe aren't breathable or are potentially allergenic if you're going shopping over there, I love Op-site post-op because they are a really comfortable plaster that children can like still bend their knees while they're using and run around and playing, and they have a little cushion pad. If they fall on them, it gives a bit of protection to the wound that's already there. And they're a see-through plaster with just the pad looks white. So I always recommend them to parents and have a few in the bag, because even if you get a bad wound or just a simple graze on the knee, they're brilliant. Travel sickness. Do any of yours suffer from travel sickness?
They say they do. They have issues in the car and stuff, but generally I think they're just fighting for a better seat in the car. That they don't want to be sitting at the back, because we've one seat in the boot that no one likes to get into.
Travel sickness. I have a podcast on that, so I'll put a link in the show notes, because there's loads of different medication that you can use, and it's really, really helpful to use. We have a bit of travel sickness, but enough that the acupressure travel bands actually do work, the C bands. In terms of toys, what do you find the most useful thing? So I do cheat and I use iPads here, but they're not actually useful for younger kids who don't have the interest in watching something.
No, I would find that there's a couple of magnet games or colouring with pencils, or
the ones with the water, that it's painting, but it's just water. Brilliant.
it is very good. We got great use out of the scratch ones.
And stickers, top model books.
Stickers are always great.
Yeah. Another option is like audiobooks if you've to have something downloaded if you
Yeah.
have older kids. Mine, just making sure you remember to download a movie. We would get a few, and we did cheat, and at times we were bad parents and we'd go out for dinner at like 5 or 6 in the evening, and the kids were really tired after the sun, and we'd be sitting out
100%.
and we were like, do you know what, just sit there and watch that little movie, and at least then the adults can have a bit of a holiday too. What do you do when you're outnumbered to that extreme?
When I went with number 1 and 2, I was that parent who had all the bags, backpack on. I actually had them with those leads tied onto my arms. So I had one.
Are they the ones that
blue
they
arm.
wear like a bumblebee backpack or whatever?
No, it was literally a cuff on my arm that went with a stringy cord to a cuff on their heart, walking through the airport. And realistically, I looked daft as a brush, but I was there going, if I lose one of these children in the airport, I am going to be shot. So I went full on. There's no one taking this child away. Now, equally, if the children got taken away from me, I'm pretty sure 5 minutes later they'd be returned.
But I have never used one of those lead, per se, things because I have visions of my child just lying down the ground and me having to drag them.
Like, they were tied to me. They were marched in front of me, the whole shebang, because this was my first time going away with just the two of them. It's just the importance of time. Give your time for everything and not to sweat it.
Yeah, and children never go to the toilet.
And if you look like an idiot, so what? At the end of the day, make it easier on yourself. Anything you can do to make it easier on yourself, whether it's a tablet, whether it's getting there early, whether it's fast tracking, whether it is giving someone a dodie when the dodie's been taken off them a couple of weeks beforehand, whatever security, whatever calms them in the moment, I'm game for it.
100%, yeah. Because it actually can be quite stressful, and then when you get over there you're just so relieved to actually have landed and to have arrived with everyone intact and all of the bags.
When you go away and there's another child screaming, do you actually pay any attention to them? As in, you might be in a sweat to say, oh my God, my child's acting up, but everyone's just happy that it's not their child.
Yeah. But like the whole thing is like tolerance. Everyone needs to be tolerant. Family holidays, like summer is the time for family holidays. And everyone expects there to be kids on the plane. Everyone expects like it's child appropriate place to be. And if people are giving out about your kids, well, that's a them problem and not a you problem.
Yeah, not your issue at all. Yeah, 100% agree. And even clothes packing, like we would have packed nearly a pair of shorts per the day we were there the first time around, kind of go and realise they wear about 3 pairs of togs for 2 weeks of holidays, and that's about it. And that you bring home 3/4 of the stuff that you actually bring unworn.
Yeah, 100%. I buy the random, and like we have eczema, so I shouldn't do it, but the random detergent hand wash stuff, and I try and use as little of it as possible just to wash a few basics. Or do you know what, they go up there and they pick their favourite dress anyway, and like sure, it's so hard to get them out of it that you just have to keep washing it. But anyway, we're rambling. We will get snappier.
Have we finished? I was only getting going.
No, I'm cutting you off now. You're done.
All right, okay.
That's it for today. Travel tips.
All right.
Travel well, everyone. And if you are lucky enough to be able to travel this year, just enjoy it. And as Niall said earlier, drop all your standards and focus on having a good holiday.
Just to get you into that travel mood, I'm going to start. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
If you found this podcast helpful, please do give us a follow or subscribe on your streaming platform. You can also keep up to date with all of the Wondercare news at wondercare_IRL on Instagram and Facebook. In the show notes, you'll see a link to visit the podcast website page, and all of the products mentioned in this episode are linked there for you. Happy travelling.